Okay, just picture this for a second. You're in the royal court of Egypt. The air is so thick you can practically taste it, shimmering with heat, full of the dust of ages. Pharaoh's on its throne, this living god, but he's totally trapped by these visions he can't make sense of. All the magicians, all the wise men, they've got nothing. Their words just turn to ash in this heavy, oppressive silence. And then into this vacuum steps the chief cupbearer, a forgotten man. He clears his throat, and it's like reality itself just holds its breath, you know? The little motes of dust just hang there in the sunlight. All the possibilities, these infinite threads of what could be, they just flicker and pause, because a word is about to be spoken that won't just remember the past, but it's going to lock it into place. It's going to forge one single inevitable destiny from all that raw potential.
Right, let's get into this. The cupbearer says this line, "And as he interpreted for us, so it was." Now, on the surface, it just sounds like a simple report, right? He said what was going to happen, and yep, that's what happened. But the ancient mystics, the Zohar, they hear something completely different. They hear a statement not just about a sequence of events, but about cause and effect. So here's the big question for our whole explainer today. Is this guy just reporting the facts? Or is he, without even knowing it, revealing a fundamental law of the universe? The final magic words that made the past an absolute certainty.
Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going deep on a truly radical concept from Kabbalistic wisdom, the idea that our speech doesn't just describe the world around us, it actually builds it. We're about to find out how our words aren't just echoes, they're the engines of creation.
So to really get a handle on this, we've got to start with the Peshat. That's the plain, simple meaning of the story. Because what happened with Joseph in that prison, it's not just some old tale. It's Exhibit A for a law that might just govern everything. So let's look at the evidence, just as the story lays it out. I mean, look at this setup. It's perfectly symmetrical. Two guys, two dreams, all in one night. Joseph gives two interpretations, and you have to notice the precision here. It's incredible. He uses the exact same phrase, Pharaoh will lift up your head, but he bends it. He twists it towards two totally opposite futures. One guy gets restored, the other guy gets executed. And sure enough, 3 days later, his words become real, letter for letter, right here in the physical world. And here's where we get to the heart of it. This is the moment the mystics zoom in on. The Zohar and other commentators, they laser focus on that specific phrasing, Ke'asher patar lanu ken haya. As he interpreted, so it was. That little word ken, so, it implies a direct result. The text doesn't say, and then it happened. It says his interpretation caused it to be so. It was the act of interpreting itself that was the creative force. Okay, that is a huge leap, right? Going from just predicting the future to actually programming it. To get how that's even possible, we have to go deeper than the literal story. We're moving into the remez and drash levels, where all the hidden codes in the Hebrew language live. And it all kicks off with this foundational principle, something absolutely central to the Zohar.
This phrase, Kol hashalamot holchim achar hapeh. This is the master key. It literally means all dreams follow the mouth. Now, this is not just some psychological observation about the power of positive thinking. No. For the Kabbalists, this is a statement of cosmic physics. The dream itself, it just exists in this state of pure potential, a bunch of possibilities. And it's the spoken interpretation, the peh, the mouth, that takes all that potential and collapses it into one single concrete reality.
Now you might be thinking, how in the world did the sages figure this out? Well, they looked at the code. In this mystical system called gematria, where every Hebrew letter has a number value, the word for mouth, peh, has a value of 86. And the name of God used in the very first chapter of Genesis, the name connected with creating order out of chaos, is Elohim. And what's its value? Also 86. This is not a coincidence. This is a signpost. It's teaching us that the human mouth, the peh, has been given a spark of the very same creative power as Elohim. It's a tool for building worlds.
But what is it creating from? What's the raw material? Let's actually deconstruct the dream itself. As you see here, the word is shalom. Now there are layers to this. A simple numerical value gives it 80. But the deep mystical tradition, as it says in step 3, shows that the spiritual core of a shalom is tied to 3 instances of God's most essential name, Havayah. Think of this name as the raw, pulsing energy of existence. So what's the conclusion? A dream isn't just some random movie playing in your head while you sleep. It's a packet of unformed, divine potential, raw data, streaming down from higher worlds, just waiting for a command to tell it what to become.
And this just brilliantly reframes Joseph's power. When the cupbearer and baker say they don't have an interpreter, Joseph says, "Don't interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell them to me."
Now, we almost always read that as him being humble, right? It's not me, it's God. But with what we know now, it sounds completely different. Since interpretations belong to the creative force of Elohim, which has a value of 86, and the peh, the mouth, also 86, is the tool to use that force, Joseph is basically saying, this power flows through me. I'm the one who can run this program. Give me your dreams.
So we have the evidence from the story, and we have the hidden code in the language. But how does this thing actually work? What are the mechanics? It's time to go to the deepest level, the sod, the secret layer. We're about to map out the cosmic engine that turns a thought into a thing. But to make this a little more intuitive, before we jump into the ancient terms, let's start with a tech analogy we can all get.
I want you to think of all of reality as one massive, unbelievably powerful cloud server. A dream, well, a dream is like a piece of raw, uncompiled source code that gets uploaded to that server. In that state, it's just potential. It could be anything, but right now it does nothing. The act of interpretation, that's the command. That's the compile and run button. The interpreter's mouth is the keyboard, the terminal. When you speak the interpretation, you are literally telling the server which version of the code to execute, which reality to display on the screen. Now let's look at how the Kabbalists map this out.
Stage 1 is potential. This is the dream state itself, this swirling, indistinct gray. The Zohar says dreams are a mix of truth and falsehood, kind of like grain mixed up with chaff. It's just raw information, pure data flowing down from higher worlds. It's totally unformed, totally undefined. Every possibility exists at once inside of it.
Stage 2 is flow. Now to get that potential down into our world, you need a channel. In this story, that's Joseph, the righteous one, the tzaddik. Kabbalistically, he represents the foundation, the pipeline connecting the spiritual and physical worlds. Because he's so spiritually pure, he can tap into that raw data, into the cloud server, and start to draw it down. That's what this pure, flowing white energy represents.
Okay, stage 3, structure. So the raw energy is flowing, but it's still just uncompiled code. The act of interpretation is what gives it structure and applies judgment. The interpreter has to look at all those infinite possibilities and use their wisdom to choose one. This act of giving it form and direction, picking a positive outcome for the cupbearer, a negative one for the baker, is all about applying the right logic to the code, balancing the cosmic forces of harmony and judgment to build a coherent reality.
And finally, stage 4, manifestation. This is where it all becomes real. The interpreter has channeled the potential, given it a structure in his mind, now he has to speak it. Mystically, this level is called Malkut, which means kingdom, and it's basically synonymous with speech. So when Joseph speaks the interpretation out loud, his words are the final enter key. The code compiles, the program runs, and the reality he chose is now rendered as a fixed, physical fact in our world. It's done.
Okay, I know. That is an absolutely incredible cosmic engine. This flow from potential to manifestation through a channel, structure, and finally speech, it's amazing. But here's the billion-dollar question for all of us. How does this ancient system, this secret that Joseph knew, actually apply to our lives, right now, when we're not prophets in an Egyptian jail?
Well, it turns out this system gives us 2 ways to plug into this power, like 2 different levels of a game. First, there's what we can call the video game, which is a really simple but incredibly powerful way to master your daily mindset. And then there's the advanced level, cosmic engineering, which is a much more conscious method for actually building the reality you want. Let's start with the first one.
Just think about your life today. Something happens. You have a tough conversation, you face a setback at work. That event, that's the dream. It's just a packet of raw data. It doesn't mean anything yet. Instantly, multiple paths, multiple interpretations pop up. You can see it as a total failure, you can see it as an attack, you can see it as a lesson, or maybe it's a hidden opportunity. Your internal narrative, that story you tell yourself about what just happened, that is the interpretation. Your self-talk is your pay, it's your creative mouth. And the second you choose one, the second you say to yourself this is a disaster, or, okay, this is a chance to learn, you lock in the outcome. The reality you experience next, whether you feel defeated or you feel empowered, is a direct result of the interpretation you chose to speak into your own mind.
All right, now for the pro level, cosmic engineering. This isn't just about reacting to things. It's about proactively creating them. And it maps directly onto that cosmic process we just walked through. Step 1, identify the dream. Find an area of your life that's pure potential. A project you want to start, a goal you want to achieve. That's your uncompiled code. Step 2, access the channel. This means getting in touch with your core self, your foundation. Before you decide what you want, you ask,
What's the truest, best version of this outcome? Step 3. Write the code. This is where you give it structure. You formulate the outcome you want with total clarity, total precision in your mind. This is you creating a positive, structured interpretation for that potential. And finally, step 4. Execute with speech. You speak it. You articulate your goals. You talk about your project as if it's already succeeding. This is how you take that structured potential from your inner world and through your mouth, lock it into the manifest world.
So just look at the journey we've been on. We went from one cryptic line in Pharaoh's court, through the hidden codes of an ancient language, and all the way down into the very mechanics of how reality gets made. We've seen that a biblical story isn't just a story, it's a user manual. And the takeaway here is as staggering as it is empowering.
I really want this to sink in. Your words are not echoes. They're not just bouncing off a reality that's already there. They are engines. They are the things that bring reality into being. Your interpretations, the ones you say out loud, and just as importantly, the ones you whisper to yourself, they don't just describe the world you live in. They build it, moment by moment, choice by choice. You are literally wielding the creative force of Elohim with every single word you choose.
So really, it all comes down to this. That power Joseph had in the prison, it wasn't just his. It's a fundamental human capacity that we all have. Every single moment is a dream. It's a packet of raw potential. Every thought is an interpretation waiting for us to choose it. And every word we speak is an act of creation. The only question left is the one you see on the screen. What reality will you speak into being? This is the power and the responsibility that this ancient story places in our hands today. Think about it. And thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share. Which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments? We'll see you in the next chapter.